Fondation Jean-Jaurès.
Penser pour agir.
The Russian war in Ukraine is not receding. It has already claimed a heavy toll of human lives and caused a massive exodus. And it continues to affect all European countries. To discuss its implications in the Western Balkans and for the EU, the Fondation Jean-Jaurès, Balkan Focus and their partners are giving the floor to key personalities from the region. My name is Florent Marciacq, and I'm co-director of the Observatory des Balkans at the Fondation Jean-Jaurès. And today, I am very glad to receive a renowned expert in Bosnia-Herzegovina, Sead Turcalo. Mr. Turcalo, you are Associate Professor at the Faculty of Political Sciences at the University of Sarajevo. Thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me.
Mr. Turcalo, so first question, what are the main implications, according to you, of this war for your country in Bosnia-Herzegovina?
I would highlight two or three as the main implications of the Russian aggression on Ukraine and its reflection on Bosnia-Herzegovina. The first is that it made the international community pay more attention to the malign Russian influence in Bosnia-Herzegovina, or it made the international community, I would say, more sensitive to it. A few researchers, including myself, warned in past, I would say, 10 years, or 12 years, starting from 2010, about this malign Russian influence in the region, and neither international community nor the most domestic actors didn't pay much attention to it. The Russian aggression in Ukraine also made it very visible, as well as the second implication, who are the Putin allies in Bosnia-Herzegovina, that it showed clearly that it's not only the political elite or the ruling party in Republika Srpska, in one of the entities of Bosnia-Herzegovina, but also the Croat Democratic Union, which is the main Croat party in Bosnia-Herzegovina, which even contributed to it that, for example, House of People in Bosnia's parliament didn't adopt the conclusion to actually put the Bosnian foreign policy in line with the EU regarding the Ukrainian war, and it prevented Bosnia-Herzegovina from even thinking about introducing the sanctions to Russia. And the third implication is that the development of the war in Ukraine, which didn't actually turn out in the way as Putin expected, made his allies to a certain extent, also when it comes to Bosnia-Herzegovina, to stop some of the endeavors that they started in Bosnia-Herzegovina, including with some decisions by the entity of Republika Srpska that even considered the secession from Bosnia-Herzegovina by taking over some of the competences from the state. That are, I would say, three main implications from the Ukrainian war and its reflections on Bosnia-Herzegovina.
Thank you. If we build a bit on the third one, and you mentioned these tensions, internal divisions, and the slow but continuous direction of towards secession, which has been taken by the Republika Srpska, but also partly with tacit support, or not tacit, from the Croat parts. There is a plan. So these topics has come at every election. But we have a feeling that this situation and with the secessionists risk is growing. It is growing because there is a plan which has been put forward in Banja Luka, but it's also growing because the risk is developing in a context of general instability with Russia behind. How serious and how concerned should we be about this risk of secessionism and irredentism in Republika Srpska?
This secessionism and irredentism in Republika Srpska is this time very real because of the fact that it actually started as a part of agreement between Vladimir Putin and Milorad Dodik, the actually main political actor in Republika Srpska, who is currently the member of Bosnia's presidency from Republika Srpska. They had a meeting in December 2021, and immediately after this meeting, Milorad Dodik undertook some first steps towards this secession by actually adopting first one quite as a benign law on medical agency in Republika Srpska, and starting in that way to take over the competences from the state. Recently, when the conversation between him and Sergei Lavrov happened, and the Russian embassy issued a statement that they agreed to continue the steps agreed between Vladimir Putin and Milorad Dodik. We clearly saw that everything what Republika Srpska did in past few months was actually supported and sponsored by Russian Federation. That's this as well implication of the Ukrainian war that actually made even the international community really more sensitive to the issue, and that they were able to see that what Republika Srpska is doing is not without this clear support from Russian Federation.
Thank you. So we see that behind Russia, there is an attempt somehow, and which is consistent also with a certain number of narratives which are disseminated in the media across the region. So an attempt of Russia to bring some destabilization in the region, but also more specifically within Bosnia-Herzegovina. Now, what can be the reaction of the EU to that? Bosnia-Herzegovina has received European perspectives, but formally it is very far from accession. And we have the feeling that the challenges are right now. They are not in 10 years or in 20 years. Do you expect that the EU will have the strategic awakening to change its approach towards the region and more specifically to Bosnia-Herzegovina? Or are you more pessimistic and think that this will be complicated for the EU to change its accession policy in a substantive manner?
Despite the fact that the Ukrainian war helped, in a way, Bosnia-Herzegovina to actually make this malign Russian influence more visible and more present. EU didn't even start to establish a coherent policy towards Bosnia-Herzegovina. And what we should actually expect from the European Union, if it really wants to prevent Bosnia-Herzegovina to become completely under or become completely a Russian sphere of part of influence, it should start to behave as a geopolitical actor and not as a technocratic actor, as even as sometimes more in a NGO without any negative implication about the NGO behavior, but as for a political entity like EU, as it cannot actually respond to geopolitical actions as done by the Russian Federation in Bosnia-Herzegovina to a technocratic approach. What we at least expect in Bosnia-Herzegovina is that EU joins United States and United Kingdom in sanctions, at least in bilateral sanctions, also by the main or the biggest members of the European Union, since we cannot expect really that there will be a consensus to introduce sanctions against Milorad and institutions of Republika Srpska, considering the role of Hungary and Croatia in this decision. That's the first step, and the second step is that EU starts to even see Bosnia-Herzegovina as a state that does have institutions. So far, what we have seen from EU past decades is actually negotiations about quite important topics and issues in Bosnia-Herzegovina outside the institutions, on the seaside, in different restaurants. And in that way, EU is sending a message, a symbolic message, that it doesn't see the institutions of the state of Bosnia-Herzegovina as a place where also important decisions should be made. That are quite also not also difficult actually steps for the EU to undertake, but very important for the country also as a starting point, that we really see that EU is about to establish even a policy towards Bosnia-Herzegovina, since at this moment we are not really sure what EU also wants with Bosnia-Herzegovina, what its aim is, and considering some previous EU summits, we have seen that EU negotiated for days about even including the EU perspective of the region in the final communiqué, which actually was kind of a message to ordinary people of Bosnia-Herzegovina that EU perspective is fading away, and more people are becoming quite also disappointed in that approach. And the number also, for example, you have probably seen the number of people also in Serbia, which is quite an important country in the region, who are in favor of EU integration is declining, and that probably could also happen in Bosnia-Herzegovina.
Thank you, Mr. Turcalo, for sharing this thought. You also gave very concrete steps which would need to be taken. Thanks a lot for sharing that. Thank you. Goodbye.
Yeah, thank you.
Fondation Jean-Jaurès. Penser pour agir.